Hello YouTube, this is New York City Prepper here, and today I wanted to do a video showing what I carry in my urban get-on bag to be used in the event of a natural or man-made disaster. This bag comes from my experience living and commuting in New York City, and I want to stress that this is an urban get-on bag, so it's not going to have a lot of backwoods supplies to be used in the forest. Mainly supplies that will be useful in an urban environment. The idea of the bag is to have some supplies laid away in the event of a disaster like Hurricane Sandy, or citywide power outage, or another attack on the city, which has happened before. This bag should be helpful for other commuters in cities like DC or Chicago or Philly, any large city that has a well set up public transportation network. But keep in mind that your situation may not be exactly the same as mine, so you should modify my list accordingly. And I have a list of my supplies down below in the comments, so feel free to take it and modify it as you need it. I want to stress that my bag has been chosen, the supplies in my bag has been chosen to stay legal of New York City laws. So no guns and knives are questionable. I have a link below that talks about the legality of knives in New York City. That's helpful in knowing what you can carry. And finally, these supplies in my bag are fairly cheap because living here in the city is expensive. And so I can't spend too much money on the supplies. If you have any questions or even comments, feel free to leave your comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. So without much ado, here is the list. First up for my supplies is my backpack. This is the backpack I picked up in Target a couple years back. It's held up very well. I like this backpack because it has a couple of back straps as well. It has one back strap as well as a shoulder strap, allowing it for some load carrying capability. I also like this backpack because it doesn't stand out very well. And this is a typical backpack that anybody in New York City could be carrying, and it's not something that's going to put any notice if you're on the subway or walking home in an emergency. And I like this better than some kind of military MOLLE type bag or an Alice pack, because not many people in New York City carry those type of backpacks, and they really stand out. And being that they stand out, as you're in an emergency, as you're trying to walk home, you're going to encounter people. You may encounter people who's rioting. You may encounter people who's looting stores. And if you have a military backpack, it makes them curious, thinking what you have in there, and you just made yourself a target. And I do not want to do that. So even though I am a former military and I have tons of military supplies, I choose not to use those supplies because I don't want to stand out. And this backpack does the job well. Next is a lifehammer. This is not the trademark lifehammer. This is actually a generic lifehammer. Instead of saying lifehammer, it says emergency hammer on it. I don't know if you guys can see it, but the main purpose of the hammer is to stage it so that in an emergency and I'm stuck on a subway or I'm stuck on a bus, I'm able to break open the window and be able to get out of the subway. And as I'm riding the subway every day, I do notice that on the trains there are no life hammers available. So maybe they don't want you to get out, or maybe they just forgot to put it there. But in either case, I want to have something in my backpack that's available for emergencies. This life hammer does have a little cutting end at the other side mainly for cutting seatbelts. I don't see much use for that cutting end, but they may be helpful to cut ropes or cut belts or such if I do run into that occasion. But this is mainly to stage so that I could get out of the subway, I could get out of a bus in case of trouble. I also have a flashlight. This is a typical flashlight. If you ride the subways, or even you're planning on walking home at night, a subway is necessary. A flashlight is necessary in New York City. I also have spare batteries for the flashlight. It uses a AAA battery, so I have 3 AAA batteries here. I also have 2 AA batteries. Both batteries are wrapped in plastic, so it makes them last longer. These contact points are not touching
any other metal piece, which has a possibility of draining off power. So being wrapped in plastic allows them to be stored for a longer duration. Always check the batteries. Like here in the AA, it has a battery status checker. And these you don't, but after a couple of years, I would recommend just replacing the batteries. I also have fire starters, being candles, matches, and a matchbox, a cigarette lighter. These things are useful in case you have to start a fire, light a torch, dry yourself off if you're wet. So these are always helpful. And if you're stuck in your office and you need some way to heat your food, you can always do that. But beware of sprinklers, and in case if those things break, you might have more trouble on your hands. I also have a water container. This I carry with me every day, so irregardless of whether it's an emergency or not, this is my primary water container. I like it being that it's metal. You can use it to heat stuff up. That's very helpful. I also have my first aid kit. My first aid kit comes with a small Band-Aid type of container. Nothing too fancy. Not a lot of stuff. I don't anticipate being hurt. This is just an emergency type of first aid kit, so nothing is not one of the full supplies. I do have a tampon here, and you may be asking, well, why do you have a tampon? Well, number one, it's cheap. We have it already. I stole this from my wife. And number two, it also is a very good gauze pad. Tampons is designed to be very absorbent. It's designed to absorb blood. So in case of emergency, I'm able to, and you have to use a compress, someplace like a lot of bleeding, you can use this to absorb the blood. And then I also have duct tape here. This is a narrow row duct tape. I can use it as a bandage to tie around the compress. I can also use it for any other purposes that a duct tape comes along, for tying stuff off. This is 1,000 uses of duct tape. I'm not going to go into all of them. I wrap it around a paper towel because it's kind of sticky, so it gets the paper towel protects the rest of the contents of my backpack. I also have a face mask, mainly used for going in the subways and having a lot of dust. I have a surgical glove as well. This is again used in the subways if you have encountered a lot of dust and you don't want to get your hands dirty. Also could be used for wound care situations. I have some triple antibiotic ointments as well as some cotton balls to apply those ointments. This is what my first aid kit composed of. I also have some Vaseline. Vaseline, I keep it separate from my first aid kit, but I do want to call attention to it because I have Vaselines in my car, in my backpack, in my office. Vaseline to me is one of these multi-purpose creams that's very useful. It's useful for chapsticks if your lips are chapped. It's useful for wound care to apply some Vaseline over a small cut. It's very helpful to prevent it from being infected. Vaseline is useful for fire starting. You put some Vaseline onto a cotton ball like this, which I staged next to my matches. The cotton ball is able to burn much longer. I also have candles for that purposes. The wax in the candle allows the cotton ball to burn much longer, which in turn makes it easier to start a fire from wood. I also have some fluorescent belt loop. The fluorescent belt loop is mainly used because I like to dress dark. So I have a dark coat. I have dark pants. So wearing this at night as I'm walking home, it's a little safety factor. I notice it myself as I'm driving at night that you can't really see people walking when they're wearing dark clothes very clearly. I mean, even under a street light, it's hard to see them. And so having a fluorescent belt loop at night is a good for safety. So that's something I carry with me. I also have two items that may be questionable. Being that I have one, it's a small wire saw. These are mainly used for cutting wood, but the diameter of these saw also lends itself to cut locks. say you're traveling home and you come across a fenced off area and you just have to get to that fenced off area to get home. I don't have any wire cutters on me, and I don't have any large lock cutters. But having these wire saws and if you have 10 minutes or so working in the dark, you are able to cut through a metal lock, and that's why I keep this wire saw with me. Though this should be only used during emergency situations, and you have to get through a locked fence, a locked area to get home. This is not to be used for every day. This is not to be used for breaking and entering. You should not be breaking a law with this. Only for survival purposes. And that goes along. The same idea goes along with these key jigglers. I have these key jigglers here. They're used to enter locks such as cars or boats. Mainly, my purpose for using these is to use them on boats, because as I'm going home, most likely I'll have to be crossing bridges or tunnels, either the East River or or another river, the Atlantic Ocean or the Harlem River, for going home or going anywhere in New York City for that matters. So if any of these bridges or tunnels are knocked out, as they were in Hurricane Sandy, I may have to use a boat to get home. That's not... and these keys are used for jiggle locks. I haven't used them yet, so I don't know how it works. But they're there. One of these days, I'll give it a try, give some practice to it, see how they work. But they are mainly used as a backup supply, used in the last case, no other option type of situation, survival purpose only. You have to get home. Do not use it for everyday purpose. Do not use it to break into a lock or a car. I also have emergency ponchos. I don't usually carry an umbrella with me going to work, so this emergency ponchos is good in a downpour. I have some paracord, which is always helpful in tying stuff up. This is what I have left over after I did the coat steel pipe hawk handle. I also have some plastic ties. These plastic ties are always useful in whatever situation you be. I have some space blanket. In case you're stuck in your office and there's no power, that means there's no heat, and you have to cover yourself and protect yourself from the elements. Space blanket will be very helpful in addition to your jacket. I also have some power bars, mainly for food purposes. This thing allows me to keep up the calorie count while I'm going home. Some safety pins. I also have 4 wooden chopsticks. The chopsticks are useful in that I can use it to pick up a water bottle that's being heated over the fire. I can also use it to pick up food, pick up whatever for eating. It's a good utensil. And being that chopsticks are made of bamboo, which is a very strong wood, if I need to, I could carve out little hooks. I could carve these chopsticks into a harpoon for spearing fish if I need to. I can also sharpen the points, tie onto a stick for a type of spear, improvised spear. So these chopsticks are very useful. They're very cheap, so I carry 4 of them on me. I also carry some socks and spare socks and a spare underwear, mainly because if I'm stuck in an office or I'm stuck outside for maybe 1 or 2 days, I like to have spare underwear, spare socks to change into. Those things are always useful. In case I get wet from the rain or whatnot, I also have something spare underwear I could change into, which will make my life a lot more comfortable. Writing utensils, markers is especially helpful. I have a few small pieces of paper that I got off a hotel, Holiday Inn. Markers mainly to leave signs, leave trails, leave some kind of notification for people. I have my little black book, which is in case power outage and your iPhone or your iPad doesn't work or running out of power, you could use it to record stuff. Always have something to write. I also have my glasses. I wear glasses, so I have my spare glasses here. So those are very useful. And like I said at the beginning of the video, I don't carry my knives with me. So I have a little scissor here. It's just very small, very innocuous, not going to attract the attention of police, and it has a few small knives on there that I'm able to use as a utensil. But this is what I carry with me every day. And finally, what I carry with me every day on my keychain in a little tube is cold, hard cash. You need cash if you're going to be going home in an emergency, because most likely in an emergency situation you're not going to have power. You're not in like in Hurricane Sandy or like in the great power outage a couple years back where the entire New York City had power out. You're not going to have cash with you at that time, because the ATM machine doesn't work, and if there is no power, the plastic doesn't work, your credit cards doesn't work. You need cash on hand in case you need to go to a convenience store to purchase a little something, you need to take a taxi. If you remember in Hurricane Sandy, those couple of days without power, convenience stores reverted back to a cash-only economy, and so you need to have these handy. I may try to get. I have a $20 bill here. I don't keep anything larger than a $20 bill because shop owners have a tendency to not accept $50 and $100 bills, afraid that they may be counterfeit. But $20 bills are always good. I may try to fit another 20 in here, so I have a 40 on me as I'm walking home. And I also recommend, a pair of comfortable shoes. I have these beat-up tennis shoes. I always wear dress shoes when I'm in office, but you should always have a pair of tennis shoes available. Either you wear it to work and you wear it back from work, or you keep it in your office. This is something that you need if you're going to walk home. I also have a couple of things that I'm going to stage at the office. One of them being my multi-tool. This is a fairly inexpensive multi-tool I picked up from Walmart. Got the knives, got the ruler, got little small saws, and the plier, which may be useful in case I have to pick up something. I also have a couple cans of canned food at the office. You could keep whatever you want. Tuna. This is beans, which I have for this can. But it could be anything you want: beans or soup or tuna. So this is kind of heavy. Not something you want to carry with you every day. But keep it at your office so that if you do encounter something in an emergency, you have some food available. I also have a heating element. This is a Swiss M71 heating element. It comes with a little stand that you're able to place on top of it. This heating element is kind of like a regular Sternos type, the ones you see at a party, where they're heating underneath the casserole dish or underneath a plate full of food. With this little stove on top, I'm able to put my water bottle on top of it, and it allows me to heat my water bottle. I'm able to put a can of food on top of it, allows me to heat my can of food. Something that I'm not going to carry around, a little bit heavy, I'm not going to carry around with me every day, but I do keep it around in the office. I also have a whistle in the office. You may ask, why do you need a whistle in your office? Well, I've been thinking about scenarios where, God forbid, another 9/11 type of attack where the building collapses. When a building collapses, or even an earthquake. I mean, we just had an earthquake in New York City last year. Not a big earthquake, but it may happen. If a building collapses on you, you do have a chance of surviving if you get under a desk and something to support you, give you a little air pocket. But you only have a chance to survive for a couple of days. And if you have a whistle available in your office, you could use it to alert rescuers. You could use it to alert passerbys to know that somebody is alive down there and they will try to reach you. If you try to yell and scream for 2 or 3 days, your throat is going to go raw very quickly. So having a whistle, staging it in the office is it may be useful. So that's about it. That's my supplies. Again, if you have any comments or you have any suggestions, I always love to hear what you have to say. And this is New York City signing off. New York City Prepper signing off.